God, mother-in-law, did you really come to your own husband's funeral in that cheap dress? Vanessa's voice echoed through the entire chapel like a slap. How embarrassing. You look like a beggar. All eyes fixed on me. My simple, elegant black dress seemed to deeply offend my daughter-in-law. What she didn't know was that this cheap piece had cost me $8,000. Vanessa, please, we are saying goodbye to Dad, whispered Mark, my son, but my daughter-in-law had already found her audience. Stay with this story until the very last moment. The ending will astonish you. After you've seen it, let me know what you'd do in my place. No, Mark, someone has to tell her. I work in high-end boutiques. I recognize quality when I see it, and this, she pointed at my dress with scorn. This is from a big box store. Your mother doesn't have an ounce of class. Her friends, Kelly and Nicole, nodded like sheep, whispering amongst themselves. The murmur of disapproval spread through the seats. I remained silent, my hands clasped, pretending her words hurt me. Poor Ernest, Vanessa continued, raising her voice further. He must be turning in his grave, seeing how his widow didn't even have the respect to dress decently for his farewell. How humiliating for the whole family. If you're watching this video, please subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching my story of revenge from today. I want to know how far it has reached. Tears began to well up in my eyes, but not from sadness. It was pure, contained rage. This woman dared to humiliate me on the most painful day of my life, unaware that I was the exact owner of the high-end fashion house she worked for as a mere sales associate. Just look at her, she continued her performance. She can't even afford a decent dress. Mark, you should give your mother some money to buy something appropriate. I smiled inwardly. If she only knew that in my closet I had over 200 designer dresses, that my bank account had more zeros than the year had days, and that her termination letter was already signed and waiting in my private office. My daughter Fiona took my arm, whispering, Mom, don't listen to her. She's being cruel. But I needed to hear more. I needed Vanessa to keep digging her own professional grave. You know what, Mark? Vanessa turned to her husband with a dramatic flair. When we have children, I hope they never end up like your mother, so ordinary. Look at her, poor thing. She doesn't even know how to dress for such an important occasion. The giggles from her friends became louder. Kelly even dared to comment, It's true, Van, I work in luxury retail and that dress couldn't cost more than $100. $100. If they only knew that the mother-of-pearl buttons on my dress alone cost $500 each. Exactly, Kelly, Vanessa replied. That's why I say she has no class. At the boutique where I work, we serve sophisticated clients, women who truly understand fashion and elegance, right? Not like, this is, she waved her hand dismissively at me. My son Mark looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Typical. He had always been a coward when it came to confronting his wife. Vanessa, that's enough, Fiona intervened with more firmness. No, let her, I finally said in a soft, broken voice. She's right. I don't understand these elegant things like she does. Vanessa smiled triumphantly. At least you admit it. Look, mother-in-law, it's not your fault you were born without good taste, but you could make an effort not to embarrass the family in public. Her friends applauded discreetly. Nicole added with fake compassion, Oh, the poor dear, it must be difficult not to have the resources to dress appropriately. Exactly, Vanessa continued, emboldened. Imagine coming to your own husband's funeral dressed like you're going grocery shopping. She just has no common sense. The whispers intensified throughout the chapel. I could hear fragments. What a shame, the poor woman. How embarrassing. I truly wonder if you were in my place. What would you do? Would you choose to be quiet to maintain peace, or would you dare to face everything to reclaim your voice? I want to know your opinion because every story is like a candle that can light the way for someone else. Perfect. The more people witness this humiliation, the sweeter my revenge would be. And those shoes, Vanessa continued, pointing to my classic black pumps, they look like something they sell at the flea market. My God, if I were her, I'd be ashamed to leave the house like that. Those shoes were Christian Louboutin, $200. but she would never know. Look, mother-in-law, she said to me in a condescending tone, leaning closer. I know you don't have much money, but the next time you need to dress for something important, I can lend you something from my wardrobe. I have connections at the best stores. The irony was delicious. This woman, who earned barely some 3,000 a month selling my clothes in my boutique, was offering to lend me dresses if she only knew I paid her salary directly. That's very kind of you, Vanessa, I replied in a trembling voice, but I wouldn't want to cause you any trouble. It's no trouble, it's Christian charity, she replied with a false smile. It's what any decent person would do in my place. Her friends murmured their approval. Kelly even commented, You're an angel, Van. Not everyone would be so generous to someone so limited. Limited, the word resonated in my mind. If they only knew that my limitations included being the owner of 17 luxury boutiques, 3 textile factories, and a fortune exceeding 100 million tons. Furthermore, Vanessa added, now addressing the entire congregation, I think we can all learn a lesson from this. The importance of educating oneself, of having aspirations, of not settling for mediocrity. The discreet applause confirmed that she had achieved her goal, turning my husband's funeral into her personal show of moral superiority. Poor Ernest, she sighed dramatically. He always worried about his mother-in-law. He used to say she wouldn't know how to manage without him. He was right about one thing. My late husband always worried about me, but not for the reasons she imagined. He knew my heart was too kind, that I forgave too easily. He always told me, Eleanor, the day I'm gone, don't let anyone walk all over you. That day had arrived. After the spectacle Vanessa put on at the funeral, I drove home in my 2015 Honda Civic, a car I deliberately chose to maintain my facade as a poor, helpless widow. The truth is, in my private garage, I had a Bentley, a Mercedes S-Class, and a Porsche that no one knew about. But today, I needed to continue being the Eleanor everyone thought they knew, the young, classy mother-in-law, the widow with no resources, the woman who, according to my daughter-in-law, had no elegance whatsoever. Upon arriving at my modest apartment, I took off the Louboutin pumps and poured myself a glass of wine. Not just any wine, but a Chateau d'Yquem, 1988, that costs to 5,000 a bottle. But to the outside world, I was the woman who bought boxed wine at the supermarket. My phone rang. It was Fiona, my daughter. Mom, I'm so sorry about what happened today. Vanessa behaved horribly. Don't worry, honey, I replied in a tired voice. I'm used to her comments. But it's not right, Mom. To behave like that on Dad's funeral day is inhumane. Fiona did not know the truth about my financial situation. I decided years ago to keep my own children in the dark. It was safer that way, less complicated, and it allowed me to truly see the people around me. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk to Mark, Fiona continued, Ed. He can't let his wife treat you like that. No, please don't do that. I don't want to cause problems in their marriage. But the problems were already created. Vanessa didn't know it yet, but her employer would receive a very specific call tomorrow. Tell me whether you have parents, grandparents, or older family members who deserve more respect than they currently receive from their families. Alternatively, tell me if you yourself are going through a situation in which you're not appreciated as much as you truly deserve. After hanging up, I went to my secret study, a room none of my children knew about, hidden behind a seemingly normal bookshelf. There were my real treasures, my company contracts, the financial statements of my boutiques, and, of course, the files of all my employees, including that of Vanessa Morales, sales associate level 2 at my main boutique, with a base salary of $3,000, monthly plus commission. I opened her file and reviewed her history. 3 reprimands for being late, 2 customer complaints for a disrespectful attitude, and a supervisor's report commenting on her unjustified air of superiority. Perfect. I took my private phone, the one I only used for business matters, and dialed the number of Isabel, my human resources director. Mrs. Sterling, I am so sorry for your loss, Isabel said with genuine sadness. Thank you, Isabel, but I need you to handle a personal matter tomorrow. Of course, tell me. Vanessa Morales, employee at the downtown boutique. I want you to meticulously review her performance for the last 6 months. Any specific problem? Let's just say she has demonstrated a lack of respect towards customers that I do not tolerate in my company. Isabel understood perfectly. She had been working with me for 15 years and knew that when I spoke in that tone, things were serious. Understood. Do you want me to prepare the documentation for the disciplinary process? Prepare everything, but we will wait for the right moment. After hanging up, I sat in my Italian leather armchair and reflected on the day's events. Vanessa's public humiliation was just the appetizer. She had no idea she had just declared war on the wrong person. My late husband Ernest always told me that I was too kind, too tolerant. Eleanor, he would repeat, some people confuse kindness with weakness. And when that happens, you have to teach them the difference. For 40 years of marriage, he was my protective shield. Ernest knew about my businesses. He was my silent partner, my most trusted advisor. Together, we built an empire from scratch, always staying in the shadows, always pretending to be an ordinary middle-class family. But Ernest was no longer here to protect me from vipers like Vanessa. Now I would have to protect myself, and I would do it with the style that only a 70-year-old woman with 50 years of business experience could. The next day, while Vanessa boasted on social media about her act of charity offering to lend me clothes, I was in my executive office reviewing the numbers of all my companies. My personal assistant, an efficient woman named Patrice, who had worked with me for 20 years, entered with a tray of coffee. "The monthly reports, Mrs. Sterling," she said, placing a pile of documents on my desk. "How are sales at the downtown boutique?" "Excellent numbers this quarter. The new collections have been very well received. And the staff," Patrice hesitated for a moment, "there are some situations that require attention." "Tell me." "Vanessa Morales has had several incidents with clients. Apparently, she makes comments about who can or cannot afford certain pieces." "Interesting. My daughter-in-law had not only humiliated me, but was also driving away my clients with her classist attitude. Anything else?" "The security cameras captured some questionable behavior. She uses her personal phone during work hours. She is constantly late, and yesterday she was seen taking photos with merchandise that she did not subsequently purchase." Each word was another nail in her professional coffin. "Patrice, I want you to schedule a meeting with me for next Friday with all the management of the downtown boutique." "Any specific reason?" I smiled for the first time since Ernest's funeral. "It's time to make some personnel changes." The week after the funeral unfolded like a perfectly orchestrated symphony of family hypocrisy. Vanessa took every opportunity to remind everyone how generous she had been with Tisse, offering me her wardrobe and her connections in the fashion world. On Wednesday morning, I received a call from Mark, my son. "Mom, Vanessa told me she offered to help you with your wardrobe situation." "Yes, she was very kind," I replied in a submissive voice. "Look, Mom, I know Dad handled all the finances and that things must be difficult for you now. If you need money—" How ironic, my own son offering me money when I could buy his entire house with the cash I kept in my personal safe. "Don't worry, Mark, I'll manage with your father's pension. Are you sure? Because Vanessa says your apartment looks very basic. And your clothes—" "Your wife is right. I don't understand fashion like she does." I could hear the satisfaction in his voice. "Well, she really knows the business. She works at one of the city's most exclusive boutiques. Her bosses really trust her." If he only knew that I was that boss they trusted so much. "She must be very talented," I murmured. "She is. In fact, she's expecting a promotion. Her supervisor told her there's a chance she'll be promoted to junior manager." Interesting information. Isabel had not mentioned anything about promotions for Vanessa. My daughter-in-law was probably inventing that story to impress my son. "I'm happy for her, Mark." "Yeah, and you know what, Mom? When she gets promoted, we'll earn more money and be able to help you more often. Maybe we can even take you shopping at decent places." Every word that came out of my son's mouth was another stab. How had I raised a man so blind to his wife's cruelty? "That's very thoughtful of you, son." After hanging up, I immediately called Patrice. "Patrice, I need information about any rumor of a promotion for Vanessa Morales." "None, Mrs. Sterling. In fact, her direct supervisor told me yesterday that she is considering putting her on probation for her attitude with clients." "Perfect. Do you have the reports I requested ready? Yes, ma'am. The documented incidents, the security recordings, and the testimonies of the clients who complained about her behavior. Excellent work. Now, I need you to do one more thing. Tell me. I want you to discreetly investigate Vanessa and Mark's personal financial situation, income, expenses, debts, everything. Patrice didn't ask questions. After 20 years of working with me, she knew that when I asked for financial information about someone, I had my reasons. On Thursday afternoon, the results arrived on my desk and were even better than I expected. Mark and Vanessa were living completely beyond their means. Their apartment costs $3,500 a month, more than Vanessa's entire base salary. They had credit card debts of over 400 aces, a car loan for $22,000, and had requested a salary advance from the boutique last month. But the most delicious detail was that they had applied for a mortgage to buy a 750 amount house, using Vanessa's supposed future salary increase from her imminent promotion as collateral. Their dream house, the future they had planned, all depended on a promotion that was never going to happen. Friday arrived faster than expected. I dressed in my most understated yet elegant executive suit, a black Chanel I had bought in Paris the previous year, accompanied by my authentic Mikimoto pearls. Nothing ostentatious, but any fashion expert would immediately recognize the quality. At 10 in the morning, I arrived at the downtown boutique, my boutique. "Good morning, Mrs. Sterling," greeted Sarah, the supervisor, using my married name, as she always did in public. "The managers are already waiting for you in the office." I walked through the store observing every detail. The employees worked diligently, serving clients with professionalism and elegance, all except one. Vanessa was leaning against the counter, talking on her cell phone and laughing loudly. Her uniform was wrinkled, her makeup exaggerated, and her attitude completely inappropriate for the sophisticated environment of my establishment. "Oh my God, girl," I heard her say on the phone. "My mother-in-law is so pathetic. I swear Mark told me yesterday we can take her shopping when I get promoted. Imagine having to teach a 70-year-old woman how to dress." She laughed at her own cruelty while a client waited patiently to be served. Yes, I work at the most exclusive boutique in the city. My boss is super cool. She trusts me a lot, and in fact, she's going to make me junior manager next week." Lies upon lies. Fascinating, isn't it? Well, my mother-in-law came to her husband's funeral dressed like a beggar. I swear it looked like she bought her dress at Walmart. I was so embarrassed for her. The waiting client moved to another counter, clearly annoyed by the lack of attention. "You know what's the funniest thing?" Vanessa continued, oblivious to everything. "She thinks her dress was elegant. The poor old woman has no idea what real fashion is." It was at that moment I decided to approach her. "Excuse me," I said in a soft voice. Vanessa turned and for a second recognized me, probably because she had never seen me dressed appropriately. "Oh, mother-in-law, what are you doing here?" she asked, covering the phone with her hand, clearly annoyed by the interruption. "I came to do some shopping," I replied innocently. "Mark gave me some money and said you could help me choose something appropriate." Her attitude changed immediately. The idea of teaching me how to dress visibly excited her. "Oh, how wonderful. I'll call you back," she told her friend. "I have to help my mother-in-law not to make a fool of herself again." She hung up the phone and looked me up and down with barely concealed disdain. "All right, mother-in-law. First of all, we need to establish a budget. How much did Mark give you? Because things here aren't cheap. It's not like the flea market where you usually shop." "Mark gave me $500. I lied. Vanessa laughed. "Oh, $500. Oh my God, with $500 here, you can barely afford a pair of earrings. But well, let's see what we can do with so little." She led me towards the accessories section, the cheapest in the store. "Look, mother-in-law, these scarves are on sale. They cost, I may add, 50 each, but they're very pretty. They could give a touch of class to your style." She picked up one of the scarves and showed it to me with a condescending air. "Do you see the quality of the silk? This is what true elegance is called, not like those rags you usually wear." The scarf she held in her hands was from my spring collection last year. I had personally supervised every detail of its design. "It's very beautiful," I admitted. "Right? I have a very good eye for these things. That's why my bosses are going to promote me. They recognize my talent." Just then, Sarah approached us. Vanessa, Mrs. Sterling is waiting for you in the office. Vanessa paled slightly. Mrs. Sterling, my boss is here? Yes, she arrived a few minutes ago. She says it's urgent. I could see the panic in Vanessa's eyes. But I'm attending to a client. I'll take care of the lady, Sarah intervened diplomatically. Vanessa looked at me with annoyance. Mother-in-law, I have to attend to a very important work matter. I'll be back in a few minutes to continue helping you. Yes, of course, dear, go attend to your important matters. I watched her walk away nervously toward the second-floor offices, completely unaware that she was heading straight for her professional destruction. While Vanessa nervously ascended to the office where she believed she would meet me as an employee, I stayed downstairs, enjoying the irony of the situation. Sarah, my trusted supervisor, approached me with a knowing smile. How was the performance, ma'am? She asked in a low voice. Better than I expected. That woman just sealed her professional fate with her own words. The security recordings captured the entire phone conversation and her behavior with you. Do you want me to go up now? Let's wait a few more minutes. I want her to get properly nervous, wondering where I am. Meanwhile, I decided to take a walk around my store, observing how it functioned without my visible presence. The employees worked professionally, attending to every client with courtesy and knowledge, all except the one who had just gone up to the offices. I approached one of the youngest sales associates, a girl named Sophia, whom I had hired 6 months ago. Excuse me, I said, pretending to be a regular client. What do you think of the service from the young lady who was here a moment ago? The one with the curly hair. Sophia looked up nervously before answering. You mean Vanessa? Yes, I think that was her name. The girl hesitated for a moment, clearly uncomfortable. Well, it's not appropriate for me to comment on my colleagues. It's just curiosity. She seemed very confident. Look, ma'am, I'd better serve you. How can I help you? Her diplomacy impressed me. She was exactly the kind of employee I valued. Professional, discreet, loyal. Actually, I was just waiting for someone, but tell me, have you worked here long? 6 months. It's my first job in luxury retail, and I really love it. And what's the work environment like? Sophia looked toward the stairs again. Most of my colleagues are wonderful, very professional, always willing to help. But she stopped. But I shouldn't say this, but some people think that working here gives them the right to treat others poorly, as if the glamour of the boutique has gone to their heads. Exactly what I suspected. Have you seen specific situations? Well, I've seen some employees judge clients by their appearance before serving them, as if they were deciding who can or cannot afford to shop here. That goes against everything we were taught in training. And what were you taught in training? That all clients deserve the same respect and attention, regardless of how they look or dress. That our boss, Mrs. Sterling, says true elegance comes from respect and humility, not arrogance. My heart swelled with pride. My values were being transmitted correctly, at least to the employees who were worth it. Your boss sounds like a very wise woman. She is, even though I've never seen her in person. Everyone speaks wonders about her. They say she started from the bottom and built this empire with hard work and solid principles. Just then I saw Vanessa descending the stairs with a look of total confusion. She walked straight towards me. Mother-in-law, did no one serve you yet? What terrible service, she said, clearly frustrated at not having found her boss upstairs. This young lady was serving me very well, I replied, pointing to Sophia. Vanessa looked at Sophia with disdain. Oh, she's new. She doesn't know anything. I'm the expert here. I've been here longer and have more experience. Sophia discreetly withdrew, but I could see in her eyes that she had perfectly understood the kind of person Vanessa was. Did you find your boss? I asked innocently. No, it seems she had to leave, but it doesn't matter. Yes. It was probably to tell me about my promotion. She always seeks me out for important things. The lies kept accumulating. Well, in the meantime, we could continue looking at clothes for me. Of course, mother-in-law. But first, let me tell you something important. When I get promoted to manager, I'm going to implement a lot of changes here, especially in customer service. What kind of changes? For example, I'm going to establish a dress code for clients. We can't let just anyone come in dressed anyway. This is a luxury boutique, not a marketplace. Every word was more revealing than the last. And if someone doesn't comply with your code, well, I'm going to kindly suggest that they go to stores more appropriate for their level. It's for everyone's good. The real clients feel uncomfortable when they see people who clearly don't belong here. Interesting philosophy, I murmured. Exactly. My boss is going to be so proud when she sees how I improve the store's image. She'll probably give me a bonus for the initiative. She led me to the store's most expensive dress section, ironically towards my own most exclusive creations. Look, mother-in-law, these dresses are gorgeous, but they are obviously out of your budget. They cost between $5,000 and $15,000 each. She picked up one of my favorite designs, a champagne-colored dress with hand-embroidered details. Do you see this quality? This is true haute couture. I have a similar one at home. A very important client gave it to me because he was delighted with my service. Another lie. Employees were strictly forbidden from receiving gifts from clients. And I personally reviewed all sales reports. It's beautiful, I admitted, touching the fabric. Yes, but it's definitely not for you. We need to find you something more realistic, something that matches your current style. She directed me to a back section where clearance items from past seasons were. Here are things more in your price range. Look, this gray dress is marked at $400. It's perfect for ladies your age. The dress she was showing me was indeed from my collection, but from 3 years ago. A design I had discontinued because it didn't meet my quality standards. What do you think of this dress? I asked her. Honestly, it's nothing special, but for someone like you, it's fine. You don't have the physique or the presence to wear the truly exclusive pieces. Her words hurt me, but not for the reason she thought. It pained me to know that such a cruel and superficial person worked in my company, representing my values to the public. You know what, Vanessa May, I finally told her. I think you're right about my lack of style. She smiled triumphantly. I'm glad you recognize it. It's the first step to improvement. But I have a question. Tell me, what would happen if someone pretended to be poor but was actually very rich? How should that person be treated? Vanessa laughed. Oh, mother-in-law, that only happens in the movies. Rich people don't go around disguised as poor. It's ridiculous. But hypothetically, if someone comes here dressed like you, they definitely don't have money. It's impossible for someone with real resources to dress so basically. I see. Besides, why would a rich person pretend to be poor? It makes no sense. People with money want it to show. They want to show off like my VIP clients. They always arrive impeccably dressed with expensive jewelry in luxury cars. Your reasoning is very logical. That's why I'm good at this job, mother-in-law. I can read people. I know exactly who can pay for what and how to treat them accordingly. At that moment, Patrice, my personal assistant, discreetly entered the store. She saw me and approached. Ma'am, they are waiting for you in the office, she said with a smile. Vanessa looked at her strangely. Excuse me, who are you? I am Mrs. Sterling's personal assistant, Patrice replied naturally. And what does my mother-in-law have to do with your boss? Patrice looked at me, awaiting instructions. I nodded slightly. Your mother-in-law is my boss. The color completely drained from Vanessa's face. The silence that followed Patrice's words was deafening. Vanessa looked at me as if she had seen a ghost, her face cycling through every shade from white to pale green. What did you say? She stammered, clinging to the counter to keep from falling. What you heard, Patrice replied with professional calm. Mrs. Eleanor Sterling is the founder and owner of this boutique chain. Vanessa turned toward me with wide, disbelieving eyes. No, it can't be. You live in that small apartment. You drive an old Honda. Your clothes. My $8,000 dress, I interrupted softly. The dress that bothered you so much at my husband's funeral. Yeah, and $8,000, she repeated like an echo, unable to process it. The same dress you considered from a big box store, the same Louboutin shoes you said looked like they were from the flea market. Her words came out clipped. But I've worked for you for 2 years. That's right. And during those 2 years, I have received multiple reports about your inappropriate behavior with clients. Patrice pulled a folder from her bag. Would you like me to read the reports, ma'am? Please, Patrice, I think Vanessa needs to hear exactly what her supervisors have documented about her. Vanessa slumped into a nearby chair, completely in shock. Report from March 15th, Patrice began. Client complained that employee Vanessa Morales ignored her for 20 minutes because she considered the client did not have the economic profile to shop in the store. No, that's not. Report from April 22nd. A 60-year-old client was treated with disdain and condescension, being directed only to clearance items without asking her preferences or budget. Each report was a slap of reality for Vanessa. Report from May 8th. Employee was seen using her personal phone for 2 hours during her shift, ignoring multiple clients. I I can explain. What are you going to explain, Vanessa? That I asked, my voice calm but loaded with authority. Are you going to explain how you decided to publicly humiliate me at my husband's funeral? Or do you prefer to explain how you just told me that you establish people's worth based solely on their appearance? Tears began to stream from her eyes. Ma'am, I didn't know. If I had known, exactly that's the problem, Vanessa. That your respect for people depends on their economic status, that you are only kind to those you believe have money. I approached her, maintaining my elegant yet intimidating posture. Tell me, what would you have done differently at the funeral if you had known who I really am? I I never would have what? Never would have shown your true personality? Never would have revealed how cruel and superficial you are at your core? Vanessa was now sobbing openly. Please, Mrs. Sterling, it was a terrible misunderstanding. I respect you very much. I have always respected you. 5 minutes ago, you respected me when you told me I didn't have the physique or presence to wear quality clothes. That was your true opinion about your mother-in-law, the woman who raised the man you love. Vanessa's crying intensified. Other employees had begun to gather discreetly around, not getting too close, but clearly aware that something important was happening. Patrice, I said to my assistant, could you read the last report? Of course, report from this morning. Employee Vanessa Morales was recorded by security cameras, speaking disparagingly about a client who turned out to be a family member, violating multiple company policies on privacy and professionalism. Also, I added, she lied about a non-existent promotion to impress her husband and applied for a mortgage based on that lie. Vanessa lifted her head abruptly. How do you know about the loan? Vanessa, I know everything I need to know about the people who work for me, especially when those people turn out to be family. Patrice continued, the financial investigation shows debts of over $60,000, expenses that exceed family income by 300%, and multiple unreported salary advances. Unreported, I repeated, which means that on top of everything else, you have been lying on your company financial documents. Ma'am, please, I can explain everything. I needed the money to maintain a lifestyle you can't afford, to boast about wealth you don't have while looking down on others for their apparent lack of resources. The irony of the situation was perfect. Vanessa, who had mocked my supposed poverty, turned out to be the one who truly had no money. Vanessa, I said, my voice becoming even colder, I want you to understand something very important. I'm not upset that you didn't know who I was. I'm upset about how you treated the person you thought I was. But ma'am, I'm upset that you considered it appropriate to humiliate a 70-year-old widow at her husband's funeral. I'm upset that you base your respect for other human beings on the price of their clothes. It wasn't my intention. It wasn't your intention to show your true character, because that is exactly what you did. I turned toward Patrice. Do you have the documents ready? Yes, ma'am, everything is prepared. Vanessa looked at us with increasing terror. What documents? The documents for your termination, of course. No, please, I need this job. We have debts, payments, the new house. The new house you plan to buy with money from a promotion that never existed. Please, Mrs. Sterling, I swear I'll change. I'll be different. You'll change. You'll be different. I approached her again. Vanessa, you are 32 years old. If you haven't learned to treat people with basic respect by this age, you won't learn it now. You can't do this. It's for personal revenge. Personal revenge, I laughed softly. Vanessa, the abuse of power was when you humiliated a 70-year-old woman in front of her entire family because you thought you could do it without consequence. But I need this job. Your husband is going to find out a lot of things today, I interrupted, including how his wife treats his mother when she thinks no important person is watching. Vanessa's tears had turned into desperate sobs. Please, I beg you, give me one more chance. You already had your chance, Vanessa. You had it during 2 years of work in here, and especially you had it on the day of the funeral, when you could have chosen to show compassion instead of cruelty. But you didn't know. And that is exactly the point. Your true character is shown when you think there are no consequences. Patrice discreetly intervened. Security is on its way, ma'am. Perfect. I turned back toward Vanessa. You now have approximately 5 minutes to clean out your locker and hand over your employee badge. This is abuse of power. It's family persecution. Abuse of power. My voice hardened. Vanessa, the abuse of power was when you humiliated a 70-year-old woman in front of her family because you believed you could do it without consequences. But you have millions. I only have this job. And whose fault is that? Did I force you to live beyond your means? Did I force you to lie about non-existent promotions? Did I tell you to apply for loans based on fantasies? Sophia, the young employee I had talked to earlier, timidly approached. Ma'am, do you need anything? Yes, Sophia, I want you to observe this very carefully. This is a lesson on why we treat all clients with the same respect, regardless of how they look. Vanessa looked at me with pure hatred. You're going to use this to teach lessons. Exactly. Your behavior is going to serve as a perfect example in our future training sessions about what not to do. It's humiliating. Humiliating. I laughed without humor. Vanessa, you humiliated me at my husband's funeral in front of my family, my friends, people I had known for decades. And you did it for fun. I was just trying to help her. Help me by calling me unclassy, by telling everyone I look like a beggar? The other employees had now moved closer, clearly fascinated by the unfolding drama. I could see in their faces a mixture of shock and, I must admit, satisfaction at finally seeing consequences for Vanessa's toxic behavior. Mrs. Sterling, Sarah, my supervisor, intervened. Do you want us to document this incident to share with the other branches? Excellent idea, Sarah. Let it serve as a warning about the consequences of mistreating clients. Vanessa turned to Sarah in despair. Sarah, you know I'm a good worker. Say something. Sarah looked at her with an expression that mixed compassion and disappointment. Vanessa, I have given you multiple warnings about your attitude with clients, especially with older ladies. But you never thought that, that older ladies deserve respect, that they might have more money than they appeared to, that they might be connected to important people. It's not that. Then what is it, Vanessa? I asked directly. Explain your philosophy of life. Explain why it's okay to mistreat people you consider inferior. I don't consider them inferior. Then why did you treat me as if I were? Why? She stopped, clearly not knowing how to answer without admitting her true nature. Because you thought you could do it without consequences, I completed for her. Because you believed I was just a poor old woman who had no power to defend herself. At that moment, 2 security guards arrived. Mrs. Sterling, please escort Miss Morales while she collects her personal belongings. She no longer works here. Vanessa walked toward her locker with slumped shoulders, escorted by security. But before reaching it, she turned to me one last time. What are you going to tell Mark? I'm going to tell him the truth, Vanessa. I'm going to show him exactly who the woman he married is. He loves me. He won't care. He won't care that his wife humiliated his mother at his father's funeral. He won't care that you lied about your job to get loans. He won't care that you put them in a desperate financial situation because of your fantasies of grandeur. Vanessa had no response to that. As she cleaned out her locker, I addressed the employees who had witnessed everything. I want you all to understand something very important, I said. In my stores, we treat every client as if they were the most important person in the world, regardless of how they dress or how much money they appear to have. They all nodded solemnly. Do you know why? Sophia timidly raised her hand. Because it's the right thing to do. Exactly, Sophia, because it's the right thing to do, but also because we never know who the person in front of us truly is. Like you today, asked another employee. Like me today, but more importantly, like anyone who walks through that door. Every client deserves respect, kindness, and professional attention. Patrice approached again. Ma'am, do you want me to prepare a meeting with Mark for this afternoon? Yes, Patrice, it's time for my son to know the whole truth. Vanessa, who had heard this while putting her things in a box, ran over. No, please, don't tell Mark anything. Let me explain it to him. Are you going to explain it to him with more lies? I'll tell him the truth. What truth, Vanessa? The truth about how you treated me? The truth about your debts? The truth about the fake promotion? Everything. I'll tell him everything. Too late. You had 2 years to tell the truth. You had the opportunity to apologize after the funeral. You chose to lie every time. The guards escorted her toward the exit as she carried her box of belongings. At the last moment, she turned and shouted, "This won't end here. I'm going to fight." "Please do," I replied calmly. "It will be interesting to see how you explain your behavior to a judge." A judge? Oh yes, Vanessa, defamation, creating a hostile work environment, fraud in corporate documents. I have enough evidence to keep you busy in court for years. Her face went completely white before the guards finally escorted her out of the building. Once she was gone, silence filled the boutique there. The employees looked at me with a mixture of respect, admiration, and a little bit of fear. Well, I finally said, I think we have all learned something valuable today. Sarah approached. Ma'am, do you want me to call human resources to start the replacement process? Yes, but I want the new employee to go through a more rigorous interview process, especially regarding values and customer treatment. Of course, and Sarah, I want Sophia to receive an immediate promotion. Her professionalism today was exemplary. Sophia blushed and smiled timidly. Thank you, Mrs. Sterling. Don't thank me yet. With the promotion come more responsibilities. I left the boutique feeling strangely empty. The revenge I had planned was complete, but now I had to face the hardest part, explaining to my son why I had destroyed his wife's career. But that would come later. For now, I had to prepare the evidence I would show Mark that same afternoon. At 5 in the afternoon, Mark arrived at my apartment with a distraught look. He had received my call 2 hours earlier when I asked him to come urgently because I needed to talk to him about something very important concerning Vanessa. Mom, what happened? Vanessa came home crying, saying she had been unfairly fired and that you had something to do with it. Sit down, Mark. What I'm about to tell you is going to change a lot of things. My son sat on the sofa where he had played so many times as a child, where he had come to ask for advice during his adolescence. Now, at 30, he looked completely lost. Mom, Vanessa told me something very strange. She says you own the boutique where she worked. That's impossible, right? I took a deep breath. Mark, for your entire life, I have kept the true nature of our family wealth a secret. What do you mean? I got up and walked towards my secret study. Come with me. It's time for you to see who your mother really is. When I opened the hidden door behind the bookshelf, Mark gasped. His expression changed from confusion to utter astonishment as he saw my private office full of business documents, contracts, and photographs of my boutiques. What is all this? This, my son, is the empire your father and I built over the last 40 years. I showed him the property certificates for the 17 boutiques, the contracts for the 3 textile factories, and the bank statements that showed figures he had never imagined. Mom, we're millionaires. Yes, Mark, we are very rich. We have been rich for most of your life, but why? Why did we live like this? Why did you never say anything? Because I wanted you and Fiona to grow up with real values. I wanted you to understand the value of work, of humility, of respect for all people. Mark collapsed into a chair. I can't believe it. All this time, you have been authentic. You have shown your true character without the corrupting influence of money. And Dad knew. Your father was my partner in everything. Together, we decided to keep this secret until the appropriate moment to reveal it. And when was the appropriate moment going to be? When you demonstrated that you could handle the responsibility. When you showed that your values were firmly established. Mark looked at me with a mixture of admiration and resentment. And what does this have to do with Vanessa's firing? That was the question I had been waiting for. I picked up the folder Patrice had prepared with all the evidence. Mark, your wife has been working at one of my boutiques for 2 years. During those 2 years, she has shown time and again that she treats clients poorly, based solely on their appearance. That can't be true. Take out the first report. Here it is documented how your wife ignored a 60-year-old lady because she considered she didn't have the appropriate economic profile to shop in the store. Mark read the report with a frown. This must be a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. I took out the next document, and this other one. Each report painted a clear pattern of discriminatory and unprofessional behavior. But the most important thing, Mark, is not what she did at work. It's what she did to me. What did she do to you? On the day of your father's funeral, your wife decided to publicly humiliate me over my clothes. She called me unclassy, said I looked like a beggar. She mocked my dress in front of the whole family. Mark paled. Mom, Vanessa told me she was just trying to help you. Help me. Did it seem like help to be told I was a disgrace, that I embarrassed the family, that I looked like a beggar? Tears began to stream from my son's eyes. Mom, you thought it was okay for someone to treat your mother like that because you assumed she was right about my lack of class? No, it's not that. Then why didn't you defend me? Mark had no answer for that. You know what else I found out today? I continued, pulling out the financial reports. What, that your wife has been lying about a non-existent promotion? That you applied for a mortgage based on future income that was never going to exist? How do you know that? Because I am a businesswoman, Mark. When someone attacks me, I investigate everything about that person. I showed him the documents detailing their debts, their excessive spending, their desperate financial situation. You owe over $60,000 on credit cards. You live in an apartment that costs more than Vanessa's entire base salary. You have been constantly asking for salary advances. Mark covered his face with his hands. My God, your wife has been living a complete lie, boasting about wealth she doesn't have while mocking others for their apparent lack of resources. And now what's going to happen? Now, Mark, you have to decide what kind of man you want to be. What do you mean? You can defend a woman who humiliated your mother at your father's funeral, or you can recognize that you married someone who does not share your family values. Ma, she is my wife. And I am your mother, the woman who raised you, who taught you about respect and dignity, who sacrificed many comforts to ensure you had an education in values. Mark remained silent for a long time. What do you want me to do? I don't want you to do anything, Mark. I want you to make your own decision based on what you know now. And if I choose to stay with Vanessa, then you will have to live with the consequences of that choice. What consequences? The consequences of choosing someone who considers it appropriate to humiliate elderly people for fun. Mark stood up and walked toward the window. My whole world has fallen apart. No, Mark, your false world has fallen apart. Now you have the opportunity to build something real. Are you going to help me? I will always help you, son, but only if you prove you deserve that help. How? By showing me that the man I raised still exists beneath all your wife's toxic influence. Mark turned to me with tears in his eyes. Mom, I am so sorry I didn't defend you at the funeral. That's the first step, Mark. And the second step? The second step is for you to decide if you want to remain married to a woman who thinks it's okay to mistreat vulnerable people. Mark nodded slowly. I need time to think. Of course, but Mark, the time you have to think is not infinite. Some decisions cannot be postponed forever. 2 days after my confrontation with Mark, my phone rang at 6 a.m. It was Fiona, my daughter, and she sounded completely distraught. Mom, what the hell is going on? Mark called me crying at midnight saying you're a millionaire and that Vanessa was fired from her job. Is it true? Good morning, Fiona. Yes, it is true. What do you mean it's true? Since when are we rich? Why did you never tell me anything? Fiona, come home this morning. It's time for you to know the truth, too. Mom, I'm in total shock. Mark told me about the boutiques, about the money, about what Vanessa did at Dad's funeral. I can't process it. That's why you need to come. There are many things to explain. And 2 hours later, Fiona was sitting in my living room, looking at the same documents I had shown Mark. Her reaction was completely different from her brother's. Mom, why did you never trust us? I did trust you, Fiona. I trusted that you would become good people without the corrupting influence of money. But we could have had a better life. I could have gone to a private university, had better opportunities. And would you have been the same person you are now? Fiona paused. I don't know. I do know. You would have grown up with privileges you wouldn't have appreciated, with a sense of superiority that would have damaged your character. But look what happened to Mark. He married a horrible woman who despises us. Exactly my point, Fiona. Mark chose Vanessa when he thought we were a middle-class family. That tells me there is something in his character that needs to be examined. What do you mean? I mean that perhaps Mark was attracted to Vanessa precisely because she represented the status and sophistication he felt he lacked. Fiona frowned. That's very profound, Mom. I've had 70 years to observe human behavior, dear. And what about my choices? I smiled. You chose to be an elementary school teacher. You work with low-income children. You married a good man who is also a teacher. Your values are in the right place. So now I'm going to inherit all this? You and Mark will inherit everything, but only if you demonstrate that you can handle it responsibly. And if Mark chooses to stay with Vanessa, that is a very good question, Fiona. At that moment, my phone rang. It was Patrice, my assistant. Mrs. Sterling, Vanessa Morales is here at the main office. She says she needs to speak with you urgently. Vanessa is there? Yes, ma'am. She's quite agitated and says she won't leave until she speaks with you. I looked at Fiona. Would you like to meet your sister-in-law under more authentic circumstances? What do you mean? Vanessa is in my office, probably to beg for her job back. I want to go with you. Perfect. It's time for you to see exactly what kind of person your brother married. An hour later, Fiona and I arrived at my executive office in the main building of my companies. It was a space my children had never seen. Marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows with a panoramic view of the city, designer furniture, and original artwork. My God, Mom, Fiona whispered. This is breathtaking. 40 years of hard work, dear. Patrice greeted us in the lobby. She's in the waiting room. She's been there since 8 in the morning. Has she said anything? Only that she needs to speak with you about a terrible injustice and won't leave until you listen. Perfect. Send her into my office in 5 minutes. Fiona and I settled into my office. I was behind my mahogany executive desk, Fiona in a side chair where she could observe the entire interaction. When Patrice ushered Vanessa in, her transformation was evident. She was no longer the arrogant, confident woman from the funeral. She had deep, dark circles under her eyes, smeared makeup, and wrinkled clothes as if she had slept in them. Mrs. Sterling, she began immediately, thank you for seeing me. I know I made terrible mistakes, but I need you to understand my situation. Sit down, Vanessa. It was then she noticed Fiona. Fiona, what are you doing here? Hello, Vanessa. I'm here learning about the true character of people. Vanessa blushed but turned back toward me. Ma'am, I've come to ask for a second chance. I know I behaved badly, but I can change. You can change? Yes, completely. I can be different. Vanessa, tell me exactly what you think you did wrong. Well, I shouldn't have talked that way about you at work, that's all. And I shouldn't have used my phone during work hours. Anything else? Vanessa paused, thinking. And I shouldn't have been late. Fiona and I exchanged glances. Vanessa truly did not understand the gravity of what she had done. Vanessa, I said patiently, what about the funeral? The funeral? Yes, my husband's funeral. Do you remember anything specific from that day? Well, I was trying to help you with your image. Help me? Yes, I thought if I gave you advice on how to dress better. Fiona interrupted her. Vanessa, do you really think humiliating someone publicly is helping? I didn't humiliate her. I was just being honest. There it is, I said to Fiona. The real problem. She doesn't think she did anything wrong, but I can learn. Vanessa insisted desperately. I can take customer service classes. I can go to therapy, whatever it takes. And why would you do all that? Because I need the job. We have huge debts, the house we wanted to buy. Mark is going to hate me if we lose everything because of me. Interesting, I murmured. You haven't mentioned anything about feeling remorse for having hurt me. Of course I feel remorse. Remorse for having hurt me, or remorse for the consequences it brought you. Vanessa opened her mouth, but no words came out. Because there is a very important difference between those two things, Vanessa. I am sorry I hurt you. When did you start feeling that? At the funeral? When you were calling me unclassy, or when you found out who I really am? Vanessa began to cry. Please, Mrs. Sterling, don't punish me for the rest of my life for one mistake. One mistake, Fiona stood up from her chair. Do you call humiliating a 70-year-old widow at her husband's funeral a mistake? Fiona, please. No, Vanessa, for 2 years you've been married to my brother and never, not once, did you show genuine respect toward my mother. That's not true. I took another document from my desk. Here I have reports from 3 family gatherings where you made derogatory comments about my tastes, my clothes, my house. Those were just casual comments. Casual comments that revealed your true opinion about me. Vanessa turned desperately toward Fiona. Fiona, talk to your mother. Tell her to give me another chance. Why would I do that, Vanessa? Because I'm your brother's wife. We're family. Family treats each other with respect, Fiona replied firmly. Something you never understood, but I can learn. At 32 years old, I asked, Vanessa, if you haven't learned basic respect for others at this point in your life, you won't learn it now, and that's not fair. It's not fair. Then I got up from my desk and approached her. Do you know what's not fair, Vanessa? That a 70-year-old woman has to endure public humiliations on the most painful day of her life. Please, do you know what else is not fair? That my employees have to work with someone who constantly makes them feel bad about themselves. I never what? Never told your colleagues that certain clients didn't belong in the boutique? Vanessa remained silent, never made comments about people's level based solely on their appearance. More silence. Vanessa, the problem is not that you made mistakes. The problem is that your behavior revealed your true character. My true character can change. No, Vanessa, your behavior can change out of convenience, but your character is already formed. She completely broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Then there's nothing I can do. There is something you can do. She raised her head, hopeful. What? You can be honest with Mark about who you really are. What do you mean? You can tell him that you married him because you thought you could mold him, that you always saw his family as inferior, that you lied about your job to impress him. That's not true. No. Then explain to me why you never invited Mark to events at your work, if you were as successful as you claimed. Vanessa couldn't answer. Explain to me why you never introduced me to your bosses if you had such a good relationship with them. Total silence. Explain to me why you lied about a promotion that never existed. I wanted Mark to be proud of me. And humiliating his mother was going to help you with that? Finally, Vanessa understood there was no escape. Vanessa, I told her in a firm but not cruel voice, I'm going to give you one last opportunity to show some dignity in this situation. What do you mean? Go home, sit down with Mark, and tell him the complete truth about who you are, what you've done, and why you did it. And if I do that, will you give me my job back? No. Her face fell. Then what for? Because it's the right thing to do, Vanessa. For the first time in a long time, you have the chance to do something, simply because it's the right thing to do, but I need to work. You will find another job, but you will never work in any of my companies again. And if Mark leaves me, that is a decision he has to make based on complete information. Vanessa slowly stood up, defeated. You win, Mrs. Sterling. You have completely destroyed me. No, Vanessa, you destroyed yourself. I simply refuse to continue being your victim. After she left, Fiona and I remained silent for several minutes. Mom, Fiona finally said, do you think Mark will leave her? I don't know, dear, but I hope so, and if he doesn't, then I will know I didn't raise the man I thought I raised. That night, Mark called. His voice sounded broken, tired. Mom, Vanessa told me everything. The lies about her job, the debt she hid, what she really thinks of our family. And she also told me something else. What? She told me that during our marriage, she never felt you were good enough for me. My heart broke a little. I see. Mom, I'm so sorry I was so blind. I'm sorry I failed you when you needed me most. And what are you going to do now, Mark? I already did it. I asked her for a divorce. I felt a mixture of relief and sadness. How do you feel? Devastated, but also liberated, as if I had been carrying a weight that I didn't know I had. That's normal, son. Can I come see you tomorrow? There are many things I need to talk to you about. Of course, Mark, always. The next day, both my children were sitting in my living room, now fully aware of the truth about our family. It was strange after so many years of secrets to have everything out in the open. Mom, Mark said, I want to formally apologize, not only for not defending you at the funeral, but for all the years I didn't fully appreciate what you had done for us. I also want to apologize, Fiona added, for questioning your decision to keep the secret. Now I understand that you gave us something more valuable than money. You gave us real values. Your apologies are accepted, but they weren't necessary. You acted with the information you had at the time. And now what? Mark asked. How do we go on from here? Now, I told them, getting up to go to my desk. It's time for you to know your inheritances. I showed them the documents I had prepared years ago, dividing my empire between them equally, but with specific conditions. Mark, you are going to inherit the boutiques and the textile factories, but there is one condition. Which one? You have to work in the business for 5 years, starting from the bottom, learning every aspect of the operation. From the bottom, from floor sales associate, I want you to understand what it's like to deal with all kinds of clients, what it's like to earn the respect of employees, what it's like to build something through hard work. Mark nodded solemnly. I accept. Fiona, you are going to inherit the real estate properties and the financial investments, but your condition is different. What is it? I want you to use a significant part of that inheritance to create charitable foundations, especially focused on education for low-income children. Fiona's eyes filled with tears. Mom, that's perfect, but you both have an additional condition that is non-negotiable. Which one? They asked in unison. Never, ever can you use your wealth to mistreat other people. The money I give you comes with the responsibility of using it to lift others up, not to look down on them. Of course, Mom, Tessis Mark said. And if I ever discover that you are using your position to humiliate or look down on anyone, you will lose your entire inheritance immediately. Understood, they both said. 6 months later, I was sitting in my office reviewing the monthly reports when Patrice came in with a smile on her face. Ma'am, you have a visitor. Who is it? It's Mark, but I think you should see this for yourself. Mark entered my office, but he didn't look like the Mark I knew. He was wearing the floor sales associate uniform of the boutique. He had a different energy in his eyes and a genuine smile on his face. Hi, Mom. Do you have a minute to talk to one of your employees? Of course. How's your first month going? It's the hardest job I've ever done in my life and also the most rewarding. Tell me. Yesterday, I served a lady who came in dressed very simply. She was a widow like you and clearly didn't have much money. My old instincts told me to direct her to the clearance section. And what did you do? I gave her exactly the same treatment I would give any other client. I showed her the whole store, explained the quality, made her feel like the most important person in the world. Did she buy anything? She bought a Canada 50 scarf, but Mom, the smile on her face was priceless. She told me that it had been years since anyone had treated her with such kindness in a store. I felt my heart swell with pride. And how did that make you feel? Like I finally understood what you and Dad tried to teach me all these years. At that moment, I knew I had made the right decision. Ernest's funeral pain, the public humiliation, the destruction of Vanessa's career, it had all been worth it to reach this moment. Mark, yes, I told him, your father will be very proud of the man you have become. Are you proud of me? Immensely. He came over to my desk and took my hands. Mom, there's something else I want to tell you. What is it? Thank you for not letting me stay married to a woman who didn't respect you. Thank you for teaching me that real love includes defending the people you love, especially when they can't defend themselves. And Vanessa? I heard she's working at a department store. As far as I know, she's struggling financially, but that's not my responsibility. Do you feel bad about it? I feel bad about the time I lost being blind to her true nature, but I don't feel bad about the natural consequences of her actions. 3 months later, I received an unexpected call. It was Vanessa. Mrs. Sterling, I know you probably don't want to talk to me, but I wanted to thank you. Thank me for teaching me the hardest lesson of my life, for showing me that actions have real consequences. And what have you learned, Vanessa? That respect is not based on how much money someone has. That true elegance comes from how you treat people, especially those who can't help you in any way. I'm glad to hear that, Mrs. Sterling. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that I genuinely regret all the pain I caused you, and that the lesson you taught me has made me a better person. I hung up the phone feeling completely at peace. The revenge had been sweet, but the true satisfaction came from knowing that I had protected the values my husband and I had built over a lifetime. That night, watching the sunset from my office, I thought of Ernest. My love, I whispered, I finally learned to defend myself, and our children are going to be all right. Justice had arrived not only as vengeance, but as education, and that was the most important lesson of all. The names and places in this story have been changed to protect the identities of those involved. We do not share this to judge, but in the hope that someone will pause and reflect on how many mothers are silently suffering within their own homes. I truly wonder, if you were in my place, what would you do? Would you choose silence to preserve peace, or would you dare to confront everything in order to reclaim your voice? I long to hear your thoughts because every story is like a candle that can light the path for someone else. I firmly believe that God always blesses and that courage leads us toward brighter days. As we close, I leave you with two of the channel's most beloved stories. I'm certain they will surprise and inspire you. Thank you for staying with me until this moment.